One of the most obvious successes of our early human ancestors, specifically Homo erectus, was their learned ability to use fire to stay warm in cold climates. This allowed these first hominids to leave Africa, move into Europe, and eventually populate the world. Much later on, when early civilizations started emerging, the agricultural revolution occurred and allowed communities to form. Although this may be seen as improvement, according to UCLA professor Jared Diamond, this event is possibly the worst mistake to ever impact the human race. His argument is based on the premise that it resulted in our social and sexual inequalities, as well as major health repercussions, such as malnutrition, iron deficiency, and lower life expectancy rates. This has not only historical negative impacts, but current negative impacts as well. So what is the legacy of early humans? Simply that they survived. Our early primate ancestors stayed alive and eventually became links to the chain of evolution. Although women have generally been oppressed historically, in ancient Egypt they were regarded as totally equal to men. They were valued and considered very important as the overseers of the household. Additionally, marriage was thought of to be based on loving relationships, and divorce was permitted if necessary. Because the landmass of Mesopotamia was surrounded by open plains, it left civilizations in the area vulnerable to outside attacks. As a result, control of the land changed hands very often. This made it difficult for any empire to sustain itself and thrive for very long. The legacy of this time period seems to be the incredible accomplishments of the Egyptians. The architectural extensiveness and enormity of the pyramids is undoubtedly far advanced with the technologies at that time.
Let's head to India. A success of ancient India was their well-organized government. A king was the head of the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, and officials would give advice to the king. This was a positive aspect of their civilization as a whole. A major downfall of ancient India is the caste system, a system of social division including priests, warriors, merchants, servants, and the untouchables class, who were responsible for all the dirty work and were seen as non-existent by the other classes. Although the caste system has been outlawed by the Indian government, it still greatly affects the social classes to this day. Although the lowest class isn't technically considered the untouchables, they are still treated as though they are by the upper class, and their lives are still miserable and in danger as they were before.
Guys, now we're going to take a look at ancient China. Stan? No, Stan, wrong country. Good job, Stan.
One of the great successes of the Chinese Empire was the building of the Grand Canal, connecting the Yangtze and Yellow Rivers, spanning over 1,000 miles and allowing for faster trade and improving China's economy. Unfortunately, a downfall of the Chinese Empire was the tradition of binding women's feet, which was used to make them smaller so they could be considered beautiful. However, this process was extremely painful and left their feet permanently disformed and often caused disease. Ancient China left many great legacies, including the Great Wall and Grand Canal, still used today to reflect on their history. The Grand Canal helps to sustain their economy by increasing trade and transportation, and the Great Wall is a desirable tourist attraction.
The ancient Greeks were renowned for their architectural advancements and their deep understanding of math and engineering. The Acropolis and the Parthenon were just two examples of these extraordinary feats. The strength of Greek architecture is evident in the simple fact that their buildings have endured the test of time. They were all built in a methodical and specific order, which has allowed them to remain iconic symbols of ancient Greek civilization. Despite their impressive accomplishments regarding technology, the Greeks, and the Athenians in particular, were known for their mistreatment of women. In Greek mythology, however, the goddesses were often powerful, alluring, and highly intelligent. Yet Greek women were treated quite differently. Ancient Athenian women were completely controlled by the men in their lives. They were confined to the household, in which they learned important household skills and basic education. Marriages were arranged in between girls in their teens and men often in their 30s. This is the end. One of the most popular legacies of the ancient Greeks is the international sports competition known as the Olympics. The Greek Olympics persisted for almost 1,200 years and is still one of the most entertaining and widely viewed athletic events in the world. The modern marathon also stands as a legacy of Greek athletic achievement, as it is a common and renowned test of endurance as well. The power of the Roman Empire rested mainly with the success of the Roman army. After their initial victory over the Carthaginians, the Romans marched their army across the Mediterranean, accumulating massive amounts of wealth and land. At the height of their reign, the Romans conquered much of southern, eastern, and western Europe, as well as areas of northern Africa. They were able to sustain their vast empire for 400 years by means of the sheer strength of their soldiers. Ironically, the major militaristic achievements of the Romans ultimately led to their downfall. The Romans saw great difficulty managing and supplying soldiers to their many states. The empire was stretched to its limit, and when the Roman army weakened, the empire could only start to collapse. The structure of the Roman Republic influenced writers of the U.S. Constitution greatly and inspired them to incorporate senators into their main political body. Laws in many modern democracies have been adopted from the ancient Romans, including the right to own property, make contracts, and write wills. Citizens in the Roman Republic had the right to equal treatment under law, which had an impact on French and American democracies.
The Golden Age of ancient Islam was a time of success for the religion. It was one of the first truly universal empires in history and brought together the Chinese, the Indians, people of the Middle East, North Africa, and the Europeans.
Now go.
People started to move away from Islam after the death of Muhammad. This led to a lot of fighting amongst different tribes in the Islamic Empire to see who would lead the faith. Many of the people who tried to take Muhammad's spot were challenged or assassinated. There was no stability and Islam started to decline. The main leaders of Islam was also considered to be one of the founders of today's algebra. Several of the numbers we use today in algebraic solutions are Arabic.
So basically, Islam is responsible for the trauma of algebra students everywhere?
Pretty much. Science believed in the cycles of creation and destruction. This led to the creation of the 360-day solar calendar and the 260-day sacred calendar. These calendars helped the Mayans become the first people of the New World to keep historical records.
Thanks, Mayans! Now I know when my birthday is!
One of the theories towards the downfall of the Mayan states that there was a lot of warfare happening in between city-states. It is believed that there was a certain domino effect when the war brought economic disaster and collateral damage, thus leading to the Mayans' downfall. The Grand Council, created by the Iroquois, inspired the League of Nations. In 1754, Ben Franklin used the model of the Grand Council for the Union of British Colonies. Genghis Khan is said to have had 16 million descendants. Through a biological lens, procreation is the primary goal of any species. In this case, Khan was successful in procreating and continuing the human race. Were incredibly brutal, mainly because of their leader Genghis Khan. He was responsible for the deaths of as many as 40 million people. The attacks that Khan was in charge of may have reduced the entire world population by as much as 11%.
It's all mine!
Genghis Khan created one of the first international postal systems, which revolutionized communication systems for later empires.
You've got mail!
I know!
I'm looking at you and my heart loves you!